Welcome to the Whitetail Advantage podcast with your host, Brett Bovin. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show.
What is up, everyone? This is the Whitetail Advantage podcast. I'm your host, Brett Bovin. The producer, the deucer, is not here tonight. He is off in training world. So I'm missing my right-hand man tonight, but it's okay. We'll move forward with it. If this is your first time tuning into the show, thank you for tuning in and welcome to the Whitetail Advantage podcast. Each week we cover a new state. Monday through Wednesday, we do a live show at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This week we're technically in Maine, but we're taking a little advocate down back to our home state here in Michigan. So looking forward to it. Had some awesome guests for tonight. Make sure to check us out on our website, though, to see if we have a guest coming up for the week. If it says ask the audience, that's us saying we're leaving the door open for you guys to come on the show. If nobody wants to take us up on that offer, we just don't do a show or we figure something else out. We do ask, though, that everyone that does listen to the show, we ask everyone if you can put a quarter in the slot machine. And what I mean by that is to help share the show. Hunting is dying, cancel culture, shadow banning. We're trying to help spread the word of hunting, and we need your help to spread the show of getting people out there in the woods, not just the kids, but people that were hunting and no longer hunting anymore. So we really appreciate the ones that are out there doing it. Continue doing it. Thank you for your support, and we very much love to you guys. That being said, though, it is Tuesday, and we're in May. And I'm not going to lie, to get these guys on the show, it was like doing doing a celebration in the end zone, because I was like, oh man, I finally got them on the show. And I'm not going to lie, just a tad bit nervous, just a little bit, but we're going to have fun. We're talking about hunting here, whitetail deer in the state of Michigan, my favorite home state. So I'm excited. So with that being said, let's give a warm round of applause for our guests tonight, Aaron and DJ.
Man, I don't know why you're nervous. I mean, we're live here. I mean, we can't screw up, right?
No, it is. You say one bad thing, it's going to be right there.
I know it's like there for the taking. Like I can't even edit it out. Darn it.
That's what puts a little bit more spice in the live, because it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
I really don't want to screw things up here, man.
Yeah, I had to I just put the notepad away because there is no writing down the time when I say something that I shouldn't say and
Yeah.
edit that out. Like that is gone tonight. It's all done.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for having us on, Brett. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedules. For everyone that doesn't know you guys, can you give a little background about yourself?
DJ, the floor is yours. You take it away.
Okay. So I'm DJ Riley. I co-host over on the Fall podcast, and I host Latitudes New, the Method podcast. Born and raised right here in Michigan. So, hunting whitetails here in my home state is always near and dear to me. I grew up in a hunting family, basically grew up right behind my grandpa and my uncle in the woods. When I was a kid, and I probably same for all of us here in Michigan, you had to be 12 to bow hunt and you had to be 14 to gun hunt. And so I can remember as a kid, like really, really waiting to kind of hit that magical age to be able to start hunting. And when that time came, guys, like I hit the ground running and never stopped. And it probably wasn't really till I think I was right around 26 or 27 years old that I kind of started to get interested in hunting bigger deer in Michigan. And as we all know, that's not an easy task, but that's kind of my background of hunting. I'm sure we'll get a lot more into it. Outside of that, I have a family, been married here for, going on 17 years. I have two daughters, one's 16 years old and one's 11 years old. And outside of hunting, they are top priority number one, but that is who I am.
Yeah. And my name is Aaron Blasey. Same thing. Hail from Michigan. Right in the smack dab in the right in the middle of the Lower Peninsula. Um, Grew up here. Michigan is still my favorite state to hunt, still to this day. I've traveled to a lot of different states hunting whitetails, and for my day job for the last 13 years is to be a field producer and chase guys around, filming all over the world. I've been to a lot of different places, New Zealand, Italy, been to Alaska 4 or 5 times. Just about basically every province in Canada. Um, so I've been a lot of places. Really enjoy toting a camera around and doing that. Um, but still my roots. I just can't see myself leaving Michigan. Even I'm just like a homebody. I love being here. My family and friends are here. I just can't. I don't like to be around a lot of other people all the time. So I like to like stay home, sit on my porch and just kind of be with my family. And I have a wife. We've been married. This will be our 10th wedding anniversary in September. I got a 6-year-old daughter, Peyton, and they are my world, man. When everything comes to them, and then hunting is right after that. And I've made my life's passion into my job, and I don't see it being any other way, man. That's just what I like to do. So that's me in a nutshell.
And family is number one to me. And I will be a 4-year-old daughter in November, and my son just turned 1 last month. So spending as much time as I can. I mean, I had a golf tournament last Saturday, and as soon as it ended, I was just like, I just want to get home. I don't care if we win, lose, whatever. I just want to get home. And now I'm at the point. That's the point I'm at in my life with my family, and uh, I just love spending time with them. But spending time out in the woods and chasing whitetail deer. I told my wife at the time, though, on our very first date, this is what you're gonna get out of me. I golf, and I love the springtime to go golf in the summertime. In the fall, I'm either out in the woods chasing whitetail deer, or on Saturdays, I'm sitting my butt in my chair watching college football. That's what you're gonna get if you continue wanting to date me.
Yeah. Yep.
That sounds Aaron and I both kind of are in that same situation. Saturdays in the fall, we both love college football. And if you ask Aaron of kind of what the fall podcast really means, is it's not just about hunting. It's a time of year, and you think of hunting season, college football season, sweatshirt season, campfire. Like
Mhm.
it's a whole thing. Like there becomes a point during the summer where you kind of are done with summer. I'm done swimming. I'm done playing out in the sun. I'm done mowing the freaking yard. I'm ready for the fall. And when that time comes, it's usually like, what would you guys say? September or like Labor Day weekend hits, we will go have a good time with the family. When that weekend's done, like fall is kind of here for me. What would you guys say?
For me though, like if it's still like blistering hot, it's not fall yet. Like until those evenings where you're sitting on the porch watching the sun go down and you're like, God, I gotta put a hoodie on. Like that's when it starts being fall for me. And you know, the last couple years, September's been pretty warm for us that I can remember. But once those evenings start, leaves are starting to turn a little bit, but I got to get that hoodie on. That is okay. Now we're in fall, and I'm a big baseball guy. So the Major League Baseball playoffs start in October. So that is like another thing. When I think of the fall, it's baseball, it's college football, it's NFL, it's leaves changing, it's deer hunting. Like that is, man, it's a lifestyle. Like literally, the fall is a lifestyle, and that's why obviously the podcast is named that.
And TJ, you hit on the point. When you think of the fall podcast, that's the first thing I thought of when I first found out about that and about you guys. And it's just you have everything involved with the fall. And to answer your question, for me, my birthday is the end of September. As soon as my birthday hits, and the next day, it's like, all right, now it's in the fall. We're hitting the hunting season. College football is already going through, and you just see the leaves changing, and you just see the atmosphere changing. And my wife can see it in me, like you can just tell I'm ready to. I'm ready to get out in the woods, man. And
Yeah.
it's turned into a tradition here in my family, at least for me, is October 1st, I do an all-day sit. Sit in the morning, and I
Wow.
sit in
Okay.
the fan all day long. And I don't care if I see nothing. I don't care because last 2 to 3 years, it's been close to like 80, 85 degrees.
It was 83 this year.
Yeah, it's been
It was
hot.
hot.
So I brought
Yeah.
like a little mini portable fan just to keep me cool, and I brought a bunch of water, but I suck it through, and I'm gonna sit out there the entire day.
That's awesome.
Well, I got a question for you, Brett. Did you bring the kind of fan like people wear on their neck at like Cedar Point that you feel like with a little bit of water and a fan on it?
Mister.
Yeah.
No, but that's a genius idea because I brought
Little
one of those to my
spritzer.
golf cart.
Yeah. And how does having a birthday right before hunting season, do you kind of put off like maybe a few hunting items that you would like to and you know you should buy, but you're like, I'm gonna ask for those for my birthday right before season starts.
I always ask my wife, like, all right, if you're gonna get me something, I can use some magnets, bro. And I'll hint towards there. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just looking at these and just kind of soft sell it.
Yeah.
Like, I could use some of this. This is what I want right there. So then sometimes I'll get it, sometimes I won't, but at least I've tried.
Well, then you gotta play you gotta tell me if you're gonna get it because if you don't, like hunting season's like right after that, I'm gonna need it.
Yeah.
Right.
You're in the corner. New bow. What? Sorry. What? Hun? What? Just coming down with something. It's the fall.
I did make a deal though with my wife when tax season came. It was the deal I made with her like 2 years ago that all right, I'm gonna be wanting a new bow, this and that, and I'm gonna make sure and get all the quote unquote bells and whistles for it. She said, all right, in whatever year ended up being this year, we put the money aside and you get your whole new bow, but that's gonna be your bow for a while. Yep, this is gonna be my last bow for 2, 3 years. So let's just see how long that lasts.
Oh gosh.
But she supports me, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know about you guys, but for me, with having kids and going to work on 8 to 5 job and spending time out in the woods, you want to go out there and enjoy time out in the woods for yourself, your inner peace, and just because of the passion you have for hunting. But is there a time that you ever get where it's like, I just want to get home. I don't really want to go out hunting. Want to spend time with the family. But for me, my wife, I've gone to those points where it's like, you love to hunt. You can only do it X amount of time out of the year. And for me, where I hunt, I only have October 1st through November 14th. That's the only time I get to hunt. Outside of that, I can't hunt. And so she's like, you could just go hunt. We'll be here when we get home. Do you guys ever run in those type of mental situations?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Go for it, Aaron. I know you have been out on the road a lot more than I have.
I'm the mental head case of the group here. Honestly, Brett, I feel it every day, but it's self-inflicted. It
Mhm.
is never on my wife. It is never on my daughter. It is me being paranoid that I need to be there. Because to me, like, I'm not saying a marriage is 50-50. I look at it as I need to give 100%. And so if I'm not there to pick up whatever slack, and it might be something like picking up the living room as she's putting our daughter down or something like that, or putting the dishes away, or, just we like a clean house. We like things to be very regimented. And if I feel like in my head, if I'm not there doing our normal routine, then it could add just a little bit of stress more on my wife. And that little bit eats me alive. It literally will eat through me. And, and it's all self-inflicted because she never gives me like, hey, you should be home, or hey, you shouldn't go hunting. Like, she's never once ever done that. It's just me in my head doing that. And, trying to be the best father and husband I can, it's a good thing. It sucks when you're out there as a mental, you're trying to be in the stand and be in the moment, but it's also, I feel like you need to have that little bit of that, like, I should probably be home, and helping, because if you don't, then you will probably slip a little bit, and your home life probably won't be as good as it really possibly could be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. For me, honestly, it's changed over the years, and this is why my children have gotten older. And when my girls were your kids' age, Brett, and Aaron's daughter's age, I had a lot of that same feeling that it kind of I would be on hunts here in my home state, within an hour of where I live. And as soon as like I had that sense that the night was kind of over, probably wasn't going to kill anything, I couldn't get home fast enough because I knew that my house ran better with my wife and myself there. Like it was more structured that way. But as they've gotten older and more independent, that feeling's changed now. And and I and like I support my wife and my daughters and whatever they do. And me showing that support to them, I get that same support back nowadays.
Mhm.
And they've also realized most of my time hunting, honestly, isn't spent in the fall. Most of the time it's in the off season. And they are okay with that too. But I've always tried to find like little windows of time when maybe they're at school and work, maybe they're at dance and work, or maybe my wife is doing something with my mother-in-law, and I'll find little windows like that. And I won't take whole days per se for scouting. I'll take 2 or 3 hours. And something else that I've kind of changed, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I picked this up right away in our conversation tonight. I used to love going golfing too, but I knew when I was devoting myself to, trying to chase like the biggest deer I could find in Michigan or whether it's out of state, I knew I had to give up probably most of my other hobbies because if I was gonna be away from my family and not want that kind of feeling that we're talking about, I had to kind of give up all those other things. And I
Mhm.
wasn't good at golf, but boy, I tell you what, I had some good times on the boy golf trips up north with
Yeah.
the boys. Those are fun. Those are real
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
But I kind of gave those up. You know what I mean? Where they know that dad and husband, I have one interest, and they will support me because they know I'm going to support them, and I'm kind of out there, kind of on a mission, I guess you could say.
Mhm. For
Aaron, did
sure.
you have something to say there?
Yeah, I was just gonna agree with DJ. Like when my daughter was born in 2017, like I said, I'm big into baseball, and I was fortunate enough to play a little bit in college, and after that, the competitive edge kind of rolled over to beer league softball. But I did it on a team that was like we traveled a lot. It was tournaments every weekend. League nights were 2 3 nights a week. Like that was my deal. And then when my daughter was born, I like a Band-Aid, I ripped it off of no more. Like I haven't picked up and done that ever since. And golf was the same way. Like I've golfed one time since in 6 years since my daughter was born. Like it just because the way I look at it is if I take nothing against, Brett, you go golfing or anything, or I got a lot of buddies that do leagues and stuff like that, but the way I break it down is if I go spend 4 hours on the golf course on a Saturday or a Thursday night, that's 4 hours less that I get in the fall. That might be a evening sit. That might be, a scouting mission I can go on. That might be a day and a half trip I can take to a different state to scout or put in one sit. Like that's kind of how I break it down. And it's just like that's just the way I look at it. And that's how our family, runs good, and it's tax coming up. So, that's going to be 4 days up at tech. I understand I'm going to be working Latitude's booth those 4 days, but still there's a little bit of me that's like, God, that's 4 days that I might be able to get in Iowa this next, fall. That's just kind of how I break it down. So, but I'm coming from a different perspective. Ever since 2012 until 2021, I traveled in 2014, I traveled 218 days of the year. Like that was the year my wife and I got married. I got back from a trip on a Wednesday. We got married on a Friday, and then I left again on a Monday, flew back out. Like I've got a lot of, I wouldn't say called battle scars, or not battle scars, but wounds of like, I've traveled for a living for over a decade. And now it's like, I'm just ready to sit my happy ass at home. Literally, I'm just kind of done with it. And the other thing that kind of sucks with that is like, now that my family is getting to the point where we can travel together, I have to put, I wouldn't say a happy face on, but I have to put the like, not that I don't want to go with them, but it's like, I've been through the airport a million times. I've been through customs. I've been like, it's just like, God, gotta do it again. You know what I mean? It sucks that way because we went on spring break this year and had a flipping blast, but I was anxiety driven through the airport and everything because I've been there, done that, don't want to do it, bought the t-shirt, it's like, so it's just some of those things of what I did in the past. It's like kind of baggage that I still carry that I just need to get over. It doesn't affect anybody else but myself. So
Yeah. When I was a cop for 7 years, and when my wife and I first met, it was hard on both of us because she was working night shift, I was working the afternoon shift, and so it was hard to see each other. Then we got married, then we started having our kids, and eventually I left because of some mental health reasons because I just mentally drained and mentally the stress level with it all, it just got to me. So I took a year off, and then in that year, I realized my priorities of what mattered the most to me was I wasn't in that time when my kid was born before I left off that year. I wasn't seeing that often. I had to work weekends. I had to work all the holidays where my thing was, I just want to get home and I just want to spend a night with them before they go to bed. Because now I'm getting home and they're sleeping, or I've got to go home and I'm going straight to bed. And you're missing out on those opportunities. So it took me, it didn't take me long to realize this is what my main priority is in life now. And I think that when I made that switch to leave, it sucked. But I knew it was better for me and my family. And now I'm focused on them. And to be able to go out there hunting, it's just a complimentary thing all around itself. And I think that's why I love hunting so much because it just brings families closer together. I mean, heck, I shot my deer last year and I cried a little bit because my daughter, when I first shot my deer 2 years ago, she's like, "Ooh, daddy, deer, let me see." And that was when she was like 1 year old. Now she's like, "I don't want to go near that deer. That no, no." So she didn't even want to come out on the deck.
yeah. Yeah.
But that's why I love hunting. It's just the family part of it all, and it's amazing.
Mhm. For sure.
Well, that's what Aaron talks about deer camp quite a bit, and like he shared, he's got 11 guys at a deer camp, and not all of them are relatives, so hunting brings family together, but it brings friends together too. And it's been talked about a lot, like is deer camp a lost art? Are families still getting together to hunt? That's a great question. Are families still doing it? Deer camp isn't just about families all the time, but I mean, I grew up hunting with my family. I think most guys that get into hunting at a young age, probably like 99% of them are with family. Then the question is like, do they continue hunting with their family members throughout the years? I
Mhm.
did a podcast recently that it will actually drop this next week. We hear a lot about people talking about taking kids out hunting. And that's great. The absolute best, right? Well, the guest I had on, he was actually he takes elderly people out hunting, turkey hunting and stuff, when the weather's nice. And I was like, dude, I don't think I've ever heard anyone even talk about that, where like he just wanted to see the older generation still get out there and to be able to hunt. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, when I made the comment of I have October 1st to November 14th, um, the deer camp atmosphere I know is still going around with where I'm at because everyone comes into town November 14th that day for gun season, and they have like their own little trailer that everyone kind of gathers up in, and they have some fun the night before, and then they just go out hunting that whole week. And I think that's what kind of makes Michigan very special, because I think, in my opinion, we kind of started the whole deer camp with the family, and we're getting together and we're having a beer at the end of the night around the bonfire, and then we're going out hunting. In my opinion, we kind of started that trend, but kind of in a way. That's just my thought about it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know, who was the first of the game at what year, but I agree. I mean, I grew up with a camp. We started, there was some camps around us when I was a real little kid that were built out of an old school bus. And I remember going, I mean, I probably shouldn't even been going with my dad, honestly. And we called it camp hopping or, hooch hopping or whatever. And you'd go to as many camps as you could. The guys would drink and play euchre, and to the point where in 2000 we built our own deer camp. We had it at a couple of, I think each year, I think we'd kind of jump from people's houses to houses. Like I remember having it at our house one year. We just set up a big card table in the living room, and that's where camp was, and it was just like an overnight deal or have breakfast. And then we built our cabin in 2000, and then it started like shit on the 14th night. We'd have 40, 50 guys at our camp. We'd have 2 card tables going, whatever game was on would be playing on the TV. We'd making popcorn, drinking beer, and and that's just what I know. And it's sad, because a lot of my friends still have deer camps, but there are some friends that are losing them. Like it is kind of a lost art, because DJ and I talk about doing out of state trips, and along with a lot of my other buddies, and guess when we take them? We leave the 13th or 14th. Like we don't even. I have one buddy that still wants to be here during gun season, and I want to be here for opening day, because that's the time when my wife gets to get out. And she used to bow hunt a lot, but now that she hasn't bow hunted since our daughter's been born. She'll get back into it eventually when our daughter gets a little more independent. But opening day is the day that her and I get to sit together. She carries the gun, and I'm just kind of playing guide, playing husband, of just like, hey, you let her rip. Let's get into something here, So that's still fun for me, but I only have like one buddy that actually really still wants to be here for gun season, which is fine, whatever you want to do. But honestly, if I go up to our deer camp, I'm going to, I might tote a gun on opening day, but I'm going to go up there to play euchre and drink some beers the night before. And honestly, if I don't get up and go hunting the next morning, it really is not that big a deal to me anymore.
Honestly, I didn't know how to play euchre till like last year.
Dude.
And I'm 30 years old.
Are you even a Michigan person? Like, you sound like Ohio State fan or something. So, or Notre Dame or something like that.
No, let's not go there. Let's not go there. No, I'm serious. They're like, I remember when I first started at the department, and we had like a little slow day, and they're like, hey, all right, we're gonna play some cards, we're gonna play some euchre. I was like, I don't know how to play. And they're like, are you a real Michigander? I said, apparently not, because I don't know how to play euchre. It took my buddy who plays it every Friday night, and it took him like it's not a hard game to play, but I was like, I really wanted to learn, but yeah, I didn't know it till like last year.
Yeah. There's a school teacher in the school district my kids go to school at, that he took it upon himself that each class, like each, graduating year, I can't remember what grade it is. It's got to be around 7th or 8th grade. I can't remember, but he takes it upon himself to teach his class how to play euchre.
Have to. It's a rite of passage, man.
I love that, dude. I love that.
Yeah, you're right. I think if you don't know how to play euchre and you're from Michigan, there's something wrong, man.
I agree.
Easy to say from the guy that learned a year ago.
Yeah. I put on my mouth.
That is true.
All right. Let's get in the Michigan whitetail deer here. Like I said, I'm going to pretend like I don't know much of anything here that's going to happen or what's going on here in Michigan. But I'm going to put my 2 cents in here and there when I see it. For you guys, let's just start off. Public land, private land type of guys. What's your preference here?
Yeah, I dabble with both. I scout a lot of public land. I don't hunt a lot of public land, but I scout a lot of it. I like walking new ground. So a lot of the majority of what I do is on private ground. But if a big deer shows up on public land, I'm not against it. The one thing I can tell you is the public land in Michigan, when it comes to pressure, it looks totally different than what it does outside of the state of Michigan on public land. That's a totally different animal. But yeah, I dabble with both, but mainly hunt private, but scout both a lot.
Aaron?
Yeah, I'm all private. I've scouted some public in the past. I've ran trail cams on public just to kind of have a finger on the pulse of stuff, but I'm not a very good multitasker. If I don't feel like I have a very good pulse on a finger on the pulse of what's going on in my private stuff, like I just am not very efficient. So I love the idea of killing a Michigan public land buck or just a public land buck in general, but um I'm just pretty partial to my private land. I try to acquire, if I can get a piece, like a new piece per season would be great. It doesn't happen that way. DJ knows, like, I can talk to anybody, but when you bring in deer hunting permission, it's like I like just, oh God, I don't know what to say. Like, like it's tough, I did acquire a couple new pieces this year, which I'm super pumped with. I'm up to about 8 or 9 different private pieces, but that goes from anywhere from 1 acre to 300 acres. Like I'm I'm really partial to the small spots. Like I love them. Like I absolutely like one that 90 guys would be like, nope, not gonna do it. I'll take that one. I'll work on that one. Might not kill one this year, but you give me a couple years and I'll kill a good one in there. So um I'm pretty partial to my private ground.
I've only had access to private land, so I wouldn't say I never had the ability to go hunt public land, but I've always had the access to hunt my private land. So I've always kind of stuck around there. And this is going to be our first year that we actually got permission from the landowner to actually do any type of food plotting or land management. So this is our first year, and we're kind of debating what we want to do as our first big project here and there. And it's 80 acres, 40 acres is crop fields of corn that we can't touch. It's what the landowner leases out to a company that flips it from corn to soy every other year. So we're kind of debating on what we want to do first. It's either watering holes, which that's my big push for right now is to do on it. And somewhere like, let's do some little clover field here and there. And it's like, all right, we can do both, but let's try and focus on one thing and try and make it the best, and we can branch off out of there. If you're someone in my situation and you have access to a land, you can do land management, what would be your first thing that you would do on a piece of land? I mean, you looked at it online, you went out there and looked at it out in the field, and now you kind of got a game plan of, all right, this is what I see what the land's like. Now, what am I going to do out here first? What would be your first thing to do?
Go for it,
DJ
Aaron. You get more experience with that than I do.
I'm assessing it by what's the lowest hole in the bucket of what I don't have. If you don't have water on the farm or even close to the farm within, a mile or two, I'd be doing water. It sounds like you have the crop, which is good, but eventually that crop's going to come off. If I was in your situation, I would go in there and I would put clover, I'd put a plot in, and I'd put some water if you need the water. So basically, uh, from my experience, I used to do a ton of stuff, but I did way too much. Like I felt like I had to keep massaging things. I had to put in food everywhere. They had to look just like Lee and Tiffany's, everything. They don't. Don't do too much. The best piece of advice I could tell you is find the lowest hole in the bucket, what you need to put in there, work on that, but keep your ass off the farm. Like, do not go, like, once you're done, like, try to stay off the farm the whole summer. Like, get it done now and stay off the farm. In Michigan, everybody says it, but it is so tried and true. Just because I hunt a lot of little pieces, I have a 1 acre piece, I have a 4 acre piece, I have a 6 acre piece. and I've killed some good bucks on them. And the reason being is because I do not go in them. Never. I get them done in the spring and then I do not go back. Let the deer feel safe, strike one while the iron's hot, and you'll be fine. Like that would be my 30,000 foot view. That's what I would do.
For me, I'm gonna be honest. The food plot, the land management part, I about have zero experience with that. So if I was in your situation, two things. One, I would go make a scrape. That would be the first thing DJ's gonna do. Is
I
I'm gonna
didn't
go
say
make a
scrape because I knew you'd say it.
But all joking aside, if I was putting in a water hole or a food plot, I would be thinking how that can play in with a scrape nearby. Like I've seen all the guys do it. Aaron's done it, food plot with a scrape tree or something like that in it. That gets my attention. I think that's really cool. But the one thing I always thought is if I had a piece of ground that I could manage and plant stuff or do water holes or hinge cut, all that verbiage. The one thing that's always stood out to me is I would want to be different than everyone else around me. If if the farmer, if he's planting corn and beans, let him do that. You want to know why, Brett? He's better at planting food than any of us are. So let him do that. Then I'd be looking at your neighbors. These satellite images are so good in today's world. We can drop down on the neighbors' aerial photos and look if they have food plots. Maybe you can see them from your property. Maybe you just go talk to them. And if they have clover, I wouldn't want to do clover. I would probably do something else. That's just me. But I've never done any of that. So I take that with a grain of salt.
Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
The other thing I was going to say as well is I lost the train of thought. DJ, you brought it right to my mind is, something that I've really found out in the last year or two is that, and DJ's really helped me with this. It doesn't matter how big your farm is. I'm a firm believer of this. I guess it would matter if it's like getting into the thousands of acres, but if you're talking like what we're talking, you're talking 1 acre to let's say even 200 to 300 acres. There is a spot in that piece that is the spot. That is the tree. There is one. And I've realized that over the last 2 years of I need to find the one tree, the one little spot. We call it the 1 acre within the 200 acres, or there's a spot that they just love. You got to figure that out. And that is the spot. Now you might have 2 or 3 spots, but you got to find the one. There's one that's going to be superior over all the other ones. There really is. It might take you 7 years. It did for me. DJ knows in my 1 acre, it took me 7 years to kill a buck in there, but it took me 7 years to figure out where that one spot is. Now I know it. I'm not going to try to go and attempt to hunt any other area spots in there because I know how it works. I know how the deer like it. So I just kind of keep it and leave it there. And something I always fought with when I was doing a lot of the land management stuff was social media always pulls you in. Like, I got to be doing this. I got to be doing that at that time because this guy's doing that or they're doing that. Don't get sucked into that. Do what you need to do and get out. Don't get sucked into, because I always felt like maybe I wasn't doing enough and I wasn't like reaping the rewards in the fall. Maybe I might not killed a buck. I'm like, well, I need to do more in the off season. Not necessarily. Maybe you need to do less, maybe you need to do and be more efficient and do it at like a different time, and that's when I started being a lot more successful in Michigan was when I was starting to implement that stuff.
Brett, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Have you and your buddy talked about what your goals of putting that clover in or putting that water hole in? Is it to take a doe early season? Is it to be able to take your kid out there on a food plot and be able to see deer? Is it to draw bucks in during the rut? Like, have you guys actually talked about what your goals are for those 2 projects that you're kind of deciding what you want to do?
Our goal mainly that we've had some different goals with them, and I think we've kind of boiled down to where is we just want to see more. say seeing more deer would be the wrong term that I want to use, but we want to see what's out there compared to just the few times that we're seeing them before season. Because, for instance, last year we saw, I've been hunting on this piece of land for, this will be my 18th year. Last year I saw 6 4-plus-year-old deer that were probably 140 or above. Never saw this before on that land. Then all of a sudden, October 1st hit, no one's seen them. No one's getting a photo of them. I've talked to the neighbors. They just like vanished like ghosts. So we just wanted to kind of create a better habitat to see how we can possibly hold the deer here better and see what we can kind of draw in and see what's out in the surrounding parts and bring them in. And
do you feel that food's an issue, water is an issue, or is cover an issue? Why do you feel like those deer are disappearing on you?
That's why I've been pushing the water part with the watering holes, because there's food all the way around us, and on my land where we hunt, we have the cover, and then around us it's just open croplands around us. And then the neighbor next to us, he just planted I think it was switchgrass, and he's got like this very small swampy area, and then right across from us, it's the swamp where we hunt, and then you have this giant like pond. And yeah, they can get the water from there, but outside of that, there's not a lot of water where they can be going towards, and deer are lazy. So I figured if we just put a small watering hole here or put another one on different pieces of the property, we can kind of get them on the land and get them on the property to see if we can draw them in, so that they can see what we offer on our property.
I think you might be looking at it a little. I'm going to look at it with a different lens. The way you just described it. Now, I've never set foot on this property. I've never seen it, but way you described it is one property he planted some switchgrass and he's got a swamp area, and then it's you, and then there's a pond. It sounds to me like you have water, you have cover, and you have the food because there's ag all around you. It sounds to me like you're a transition zone, which I think I love that. I love that part. Let the deer bed over on him. I know you want to get him on you. This is where I made a mistake. I was trying to hold bucks earlier, like 7 years ago, when I really started getting into some manipulation and hinge cuttings. I was trying to hold bucks. Quickly realized I am not going to do enough to hold bucks. I was cutting 70% of the timber, and it was thicker than shit. I had to flip my mindset to hold the does, make the does want to be there, and then just hunt them when the does are there in the rut, and the bucks will come. Because I made it so thick that eventually when the bucks did come, and one buck would call it home, I couldn't hunt the area because I couldn't get in, because my access wasn't good enough. I have limited access. I think you need to look at it as far as, it sounds like you could do a little bit of all of that stuff. It sounds like there's cover on the neighbors. Okay, maybe if you can go in there, make some cover sometime, do some hinge cutting would be good. I don't think it'd be a bad thing. Put a little plot in. I think that's a great thing. Put a little food in. Give them a variety. Make almost like a triangle. Make them have to move in there. And honestly, what DJ said earlier, you go in there and you put a really good scrape and you let them take it over, that could be pulling power. That alone right there. I mean, No-Go, the buck I shot on October 1st this year, was 83 degrees. I made that mock scrape April 6th of the year prior, and he came in and hit that on October 1st, and I killed him. I went there and made that scrape, planted that tree, never touched it again all summer. And I went in there and killed him that night. Mm-hmm. That's just what the pulling power can have. And so my next question to you is, how much do you guys actually, like, in August and September, how much are you in that farm?
It's kind of a debate, because there's some of us that think, well, let's go out there and try and get our scent out there the most. And because I live in a neighborhood and there's a bunch of deer running around, so a couple of us have like myself, if we put our scent out there more, they might get used to it, so they're not going to be as jumpy, because here in Michigan, the deer are always jumpy, and the deer are at 2 years are acting like they're 8-year-old deer. They're freaking smart. And then there's some that's like, all right, don't go in there and don't let your scent get around. I can see both sides of the coin. I generally only go out there once every 2 weeks just to get cell camera. I mean, SD cards. So I'm not going in there a whole lot, but I do like to get out there a little bit just to kind of get my scent on the main trail. I'm not going in these deep parts of the woods, but on like the big main trails around, like you'd ride a 4-wheeler around, I'm walking that though. That's what I've generally been doing. And like you said though, Aaron, we are in a perfect transition zone. And that's why I like where I hunt, because it's a nice little funnel points between food and the water that they can get. And I like to do as less impact as possible. I like to see it as wit versus wit. How can I beat them without doing a freaking thing? And I'm more of a tactical positional guy. So watering holes was the one thing, the small thing that I wanted to do, but hopefully that answered your question.
So the only thing with the water holes, are you planning on putting a tank in, like in the ground, or just are you actually going to take like a backhoe out there and like dig a hole?
We were just going to put like one of those small little like swimming pool type deals, and nothing big or nothing fancy or anything like that.
So we've been doing that at our deer camp for a couple years now, and I actually have one on another piece of property that I just cut a barrel in half and I just put it in the ground. The only downfall to them is
refilling
to fill them, you're going in a lot more. And you're probably not going to want to hear what I have to say, because if somebody was like, what's the recipe to kill a big buck here? If you want high level, the one thing I'm going to tell you is stay the hell off the farm. Like that, because I spent a lot of years going on the farm. But when you're done scouting, like in the spring, do whatever you want to do. Like even right now in May, like I got to go do some more work. I got to prep some scrapes and some stand locations and everything. Like I'm still getting to the point right now where I'm like, man, okay, it's okay now. We're turkey hunting. I get it, deer. But when those antlers start growing is when it's like, to me, like, okay, I got to really pump the brakes on like what I'm doing. When they start getting out to their ears and they're starting to like, ball out a little bit and start turning, that's when I really start like, I gotta stay off the farm. Like that's my indicator of like, I better have everything done by then, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What I hear about this story here, Brett, in your situation, that as much as it is nice that it's a transition area, these bucks they're gone though once season starts, right? Like they're shifting away from there. You have all the food in the world there. You have water there, and even outside of the pond in the little swampy area, the amount of water that they're getting inside those cornfields, natural browse, in the beans, like they're getting lots of water. So you're struggling with, not only just having deer on the property, but like that shift, right? Some bucks do it, some don't. That velvet shift, like they lose. Is that when you're losing them? Is kind of like when they lose their velvet and then they're gone, right? I know it. We kind of said it jokingly in the beginning of it, but like what Aaron said, like that scrape, you're gonna give like a really, really good scrape, not like a half-ass scrape, like a really good one. You may have bucks where you're at. I don't know what it looks like, but I hunt some areas in Michigan that I deal with this. And like when Aaron talks about small acreage, I think that he deals with it too. These bucks, small acreage, woodlots, broken up country, they have like these circuits, and they can be really big and they can be really small. And you may only be you may be a big fraction of their circuit, or you may be just 1%. But if you are 1%, I honestly, Brett, I think the scrape is, to me, would be more important than either of those two.
I'd agree,
because the clover, and the water, like they're getting everything they need there, but they need something else to get them there. And that scrape may only be at nighttime in the beginning. But there was something last year that put multiple 4-year-old deer on there, which you said, like we all know, like that's very rare from Michigan, but then they
Yeah.
disappeared. So I would honestly, dude, I would make the best freaking scrape I could make on that piece.
Yeah, and after hearing all that, I kind of retract my first statement. I'm gonna agree with DJ. Like I think you're missing that big hub community scrape. And you talk about how you want to know what's on the farm. Like if DJ and I share all of our photos back and forth to each other, if you could see these photos and the deer we have hit 365, these scrapes, it's and I'm not trying to toot our horn. I'm just saying it's something he's opened my eyes over to the last 2 years. Is like I didn't think I could kill a buck, a Pope and Young buck that was 4 years old on an 83-degree day on October 1st over a scrape, hitting a scrape. I mean, you're gonna see on the footage this year on Grit, like he's up in the scrape on his 2 legs peeing on himself. I mean, how about it, DJ? Like, and I shoot him right after he's stopped peeing on himself. It's wild.
Well, let's put it this way. He came to the scrape that's in a food plot and didn't touch the food plot. He came to the scrape.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? But even like
he did too.
You could take Aaron's situation there with that buck no go. You could take away that food plot. If that scrape's still there, I think he still has the same result. In maybe I'm a little bit biased to this, Brett, because I've never had the opportunity to do something like you did. The food plots or the water holes where I haven't had that. So I have had to find other ways to be better than the neighbors, kind of per se.
Yeah. And the reason I never really got, I wouldn't say I never got into the mock scrapes was because where I put my stand for, because I have a couple different stands, one for on a food plot on the big lot, and one in the deep woods, mainly for the fall and the rut. My rut spot, it's like, to describe it, it's this little 2-acre circle that's wide open in the deep woods. And then it's like it funnels down into it. I'm on the back side of a hill, and it's just a nice spot for deer to feel comfortable in, not knowing that I'm there ready to kill them. But and there's scrapes all freaking around me, though. You just see one tree was basically brushed over, and so I was like, I'm in a perfect spot. I mean, heck, you see a bunch of these deer walking around. That's my thought. That's why I never really got into it, thinking if I've seen all these scrapes and I've had videos of these deer scraping these trees, I just need to sit here and hopefully eventually something great shows up.
Mm-hmm. When I hear something like that, and I could be completely wrong. I've never even walked this piece, Brett, so I have no clue. But when I hear that, like those are 50% scrapes. If there's multiple in there, you gotta like, where's the one? Because honestly, there's probably one in there, because I find that a lot too. Where if I have a really, really good community scrape in the postseason when I'm scouting, I'll find a handful of what I call them aggression scrapes. They look like, we'll paint a picture where you're talking about during the night, you end up with 2 or 3 bucks down in that area. Okay. End of it's Halloween and they're starting to feel just right. They're pissed off. Those are the aggression scrapes. Like they'll make a scrape on the ground without a licking branch ahead over top of it if it's an aggression scrape. But when we talk about scrapes, like the scrape is built, that is priority 1. How to hunt it becomes second. Like I'm not like I don't have like a tree stand out in the woods and be like, oh, I want to build a scrape right there. No, the scrape is built first because that's where it has to be. And then I figure out how to hunt it afterwards. Maybe I have to hunt just off of it or whatever the case may be. But if you're doing a scrape in like a food plot or something, then you can adjust that because you know where you need to be hunting that food plot. So then you can kind of build your scrape where you want it. But like if it's off that food plot, I'm thinking scrape first, how to hunt it second.
Yeah. And DJ really opened my eyes to that because I was the exact opposite. I want to be in here because it looks like this is where I need to be. And I would try to will that being the spot. And it wasn't that way. And like when I started reversing my thought process of like, this is where a scrape needs to be, it might not look like you walk in those areas, you're like, you kill a buck in here. It's real bucky in here.
Mm.
How many times have you ever killed a buck in those areas? Probably never. Like, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes those spots will work, but scrapes, you have to treat them all differently. And it's all about location. It is all about location. And when you were describing the 50 scrapes around you or whatever, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, it probably looks really good in there, but you're off. It's probably not the area. Like those scrapes are getting pounded all the time in the night. You're probably sprinkling a little bit of daylight photos in there just to keep you coming back. But there's something that's off about it. I would rather find a giant scrape by itself with the branch torn to shit than find 50 scrapes in 100 acre or 2 acres and be like, I'm hunting that one scrape because that's where the big dude is. And that's where he's going to hit it in daylight.
Last year, I was going through cell cameras, and when I went to go pick up my cameras, I found this one spot. It was actually about 10 yards behind me. I've always had my eye on it, and I was like, you know what? I wonder if I put a cell camera down there. So I'm just looking around there, and next thing I know, I see this huge, well, I don't know how big it would be, but the tree was just shredded up like a motherfucker, and you could just see. And that's when you say so scrapes around it. It was only that one on that tree, nothing around it, and the tree looked like it was. I'm surprised it hasn't crossed over yet and busted. And I put a camera there, and next thing I know, I'm seeing two giant bucks that I've never seen before just walk right through there, and they're just standing there. And as they're walking, you could tell they were walking with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And this year is going to be my year. It's like I'm going to put a stand there and switch my mindset from over there to over here.
Do you remember what kind of tree that was, Brett?
No, because
What time of year was
maple
it?
tree?
What time of year was it, you say?
I saw that tree in October.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like, were they yellow leaves?
Yeah.
Were they like smaller and kind of like tapered out like this?
Yeah. If I remember
It was
correctly.
it was a beech tree.
Ah, beech tree.
I
Those look
live
pretty
and
big.
die by beech trees.
Really?
Like they're so beech trees, in my opinion, because they hold their leaves longer, they're very visual from a distance. And that's something that DJ, a guy that he had on his podcast, like kind of brought up. They're so visual. When all the trees lose their leaves, they still have their leaves, and they still have their leaves into the spring. My best scrapes are beech trees. I will cut beech trees off of one property and plant them on another property just because they are that way. Like if let's say I'm scouting a clear cut and there's one beech tree in the middle of it with no other trees around it, that tree will have a scrape under it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is beech. I hold them at a very high standard, and the deer love them. They really do. And the big deer love them. Yeah.
With scouting, let's jump into that real quick. Let's take e-scouting out of it. You have someone that has 4 to 10 acres of a piece of land that they can hunt. You can't e-scout or anything like that. What are you going to tell that guy or person that says, all right, you only have a small piece of land to work with. This is what you should be looking for to really set yourself up for success.
Yeah. So a small piece like that, first off, I'm going to tell them there's no reason you can't walk this whole thing. I would want to know every inch of it. But on a small piece like that, in my mind, I gotta find one good area in there, one good kill tree, like Aaron talked about earlier. There's a tree in that piece that the oldest deer are gonna walk by more than other deer in other trees are in that area. But what I'm gonna be looking for, whether it's a 10-acre piece or it's a 100-acre piece, but right now we're talking about small acreage. I want to find where multiple things come together in there. And you might have to be open-minded. What if you said, DJ, it's just a woodlot. So then I'm gonna maybe start looking for some downfalls. Or maybe, we have an edge, a line of beech trees, meet some oak trees. And you can't see it from a map. You have to go in there and look at it with your own eyes. Maybe we have a change in tree species or vegetation. I'm going to be looking for edges where multiple things come together. And it could be tall grass. It could be the swamp edge, right along that swamp edge and tease out, I don't know, a row of pine trees. Whitetails are edge animals, in my opinion. If you watch, they're always following edge, always following cover, whatever they can use to their advantage. But no matter where I go, Brett, I'm always attracted to areas that have multiple things coming together. Like I said, you have to be open-minded. Maybe it is downfalls. Maybe it's tree species. Like not every 10 acres is the same.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing you have to look for. So that's what I would be looking for. If I could not scout it, I'd go in there and look for that. And I would prefer to do it probably, January, February, March, April. But if that time's passed and it's summer, if you got questions, you gotta go get it. You gotta go get the answers for them. So you gotta go in there and look for it.
Yeah. You know, if we're speaking, like you said, I think 7 acres or less or something like that, the first thing I'm doing is I'm going in there and I'm finding where the most concentrated deer beds are. I'm going to try to find where you can tell it's a doe family group of bedding, where I can find 4 or 5 beds in an area. That's going to give me the indicator of where they're bedding and where they're going to stay, because more than likely, it's all situational dependent, but more than likely on a piece that small, they've found the best spot already. Like they found the best spot that treats them well to bed. Okay. So I'm going to start there. Once I find that, then I'm going to go to what DJ said. I'm going to try to find where everything comes together. Now, that could be, I have a piece that's, anywhere from 4 to 6 acres, let's say. I don't even really know. It's about that big. And it's got ag all the way around it. Actually on 3 sides, the 4 sides, kind of like a tall grass area. But it's kind of like a turd in a punch bowl out there, to be honest with you. And it's like a piece of ground that people will drive by and you're like, it's probably not a good spot. But when you go in there and you dissect it, it's a pretty good spot. So I'm going to find the beds, and then I'm going to find the train in that spot, or in this particular piece. It is flatter than a pancake. There is maybe a little knoll in there, but it is flat. Like there's topo lines don't even show up on it on an e-scout. But when you get in there, you can see where the does are bedding is a lot of thorn apple. It's a lot of there's like a little open patch in the trees that just has like tall, like knee-high grass, a lot of poison ivy in there, and thorn apple. And then off to a little bit farther to the south, there's a lot more taller grass, but it gets pretty moist and wet in there all year. Even if it's a dry year, it's kind of wet in there. So I kind of eliminate that immediately for bedding, even though it's thicker. Because there's really no high humps or anything. They can't really get out of the wetness. So I found the beds. Now I'm going to look at surrounding areas. Where's the closest cover from this piece of timber? Okay. If it's a fence row that might be coming off of it, that's the closest piece of cover. It might be a wood lot that is probably, it could be 400 or 500 yards away. That's the deer are mostly going to bar hop. They're going to jump from wood lot to wood lot to wood lot. So then I'm going to see what funnel makes it from my wood lot to their wood lot. Okay. And in a particular piece of ground I have, there's a little knoll. So the bedding is on, it would be on the east side. Okay. And then on the northwest corner is like the funnel out to the next piece of cover, the closest next piece of cover. And just so happen there is a thorn apple and a beech tree in that little funnel. And what makes the funnel is there's like two little knolls that kind of make, like, it's like DJ said, you got to have an open mind. When you look at it, it just kind of looks flat, but there's just a little ever so gradual uptick. But right in the middle of it, if you're in Ohio big hills, it would be, aggressive. But this is just, a smaller scale. And dude, they travel that like crazy. And right, that thorn apple and that beech tree, I put a mock scrape there every year. It's there, and I refresh it every year. I've killed 2 bucks out of there in the same tree. The stand stays prepped there. I have 1 entry and 1 exit. I've actually gotten in there knowing a buck was in there bedded on October 13th of 2022. I knew he was in there. I watched him go in there, and I slipped into that stand, and an hour and a half later he came by to get ready to hit that scrape, and I shot him. Because the reason why I did that is because I knew where he was bedding. He was where those does are. That's where the best bedding is on the property. So he's going to use it as well. And I was just taking that gamble, and it ended up working. So that's kind of a lot what DJ said, but I'm going to try to find those beds, and that's something that concentrated. I'm going to try to find those beds because that's where they're going to spend a lot of their time, even in the summer. Like, they know where the best spot is for them to bed. So I'm going to find that. And then I'm going to just try to find the trail that I think they're going to use the most to try to get to the next piece of cover when shit hits the fan and they need to get out of there, or when they're just kind of getting up out of their beds and they need to move. I'm going to try to intercept them that way.
Yep. And two things that Aaron said there that you can almost put a bow on it, that what we talked about earlier, we brought up edge. And did you hear where his bedding was? It's just off that edge, right? And where did he put that scrape? Just off that edge. Like,
yeah,
when you have a small wood lot like that, everything revolves around that edge, in my opinion. Like how he found that bedding, then you follow the bedding, follow the edge to the scrape. I mean, that's such a good recipe for small acreage.
That scrape is about, it's probably 80 yards at the most from that edge that DJ's talking about. The next thing I would say that is crucial on a small acre piece, like I said, 5, 6, 7 acres, let's just say 10 acres or less, where the mock scrapes come in great is you can monitor those for windows. Because this is not a stand or a piece of property I can hunt all the time. I've tried to hunt these small acres with 3 different stand locations, or I can't do it. I've screwed up more than not. I found the one spot and I stick to it. The one tree, and I might only be able to hunt it twice a year. But that's where it's going to happen. If you can find those windows using trail cams, on those scrapes, they will tell you. I know from October 13th till October 20th at roughly mid-morning, there will be a shooter buck in that time frame hit that scrape. I know it. For like 4 years in a row, there's been a buck that hits it in that time. So guess what I've done the last couple of years is I'll take my daughter to school. I'll come back home. It's about 8:30, 9 o'clock, get my stuff on. I will head to the farm. I will get in, and I will usually sit from 9 o'clock until noon. And it works. Like, that's just, you got to find those windows and just that's how I try to be more efficient doing it those ways. You know, kids at school, mama's at work. I'm going to go hunting. It's the lull, quote unquote lull, but hey, it could happen. You know, I've seen it happen on trail cam. I just got to be able to get in there and he's got to be there. It's a recipe, you know, but it works.
Yeah. Well, in part of that recipe, what Aaron was just talking about, if you remember what he said earlier in a story about hunting 1 acre, it took 7 years. And so when he refers to those windows, this doesn't happen overnight learning windows with trail cameras. It takes years, you know, because 1 year he's got corn. The following year he's got beans. So those 2 windows may look a little different. Then the following year, maybe they go back to beans, and so he's circling back to go. Okay, maybe the window is going to repeat itself since I'm on another bean year. And then, to me, the one last thing that's super important about a situation like that, having multiple of them, because if you only have the 1 10-acre lot, you're going to burn it out. I mean,
Amen.
You heard Aaron talk about earlier about staying out. It's probably more important than ever when you have a small acreage. So if you're dialing it in, you got 10 acres, try to go find 5 or 6 of them. Then you can bounce through them. Put that recipe we just talked about, rinse and repeat on each one of those. And maybe you'll find different windows on that scrape that you built off the edge that's off the dough bedding. Maybe you'll find different windows and you can be here October 4th through the 8th. Then you can be down here on this other one, October 15th through 19th. And then so on and so on. That's the hard part about hunting small acreage, is not having enough of them. Because if you have enough of them, dude, it's probably better than 100 solid acres, honestly. Because you continue, it's like a cycle. You never burn one out. You know, like,
well, DJ, it's like you said, the deer have a circuit. The deer have a circuit. You need to have a circuit. You know what I mean? And I'm actually working on another piece right now that literally, it's maybe an acre, and it's out in the middle of 2 fields. And I told my wife the other day, we were driving by, and I'm like, I've been trying to work to get that piece. And she looks at it, she looks at me and goes, for what? And I'm like, because there's going to be a big deer that dies in there. Might not be this year, but give me 2 years. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out a window in 2 to 3 years, and I will kill the biggest deer in the section. I will kill in there. That's how you got to approach it. But the thing is, like DJ said, I've got about 5 of those pieces now that are 10 acres or less. Like DJ said with the corn, one might be great with corn, and the bean year might be terrible. But hey, guess what? I got the corn over on Mr. Davis's over here. That's like the same deal. Let's rinse and repeat, baby. Let's put that scrape in, you know, shoot no go on October 1st. Love it. You know, it's just that's the key, is having enough of them.
Yeah. What's interesting about small acreage, like, this isn't something I've thought a lot about, but it's kind of bringing it up right now. I almost wonder if it's easier for guys to walk away from, say, 20 acres of less ground if they're not having success on it right away, compared to like a really big, you know, like sometimes, say you go to public land and like, oh man, it's kicking my ass. This is tough. Maybe I'll just go somewhere else on this 5,000 acres. If you don't have success on a 6-acre tract, year one, like, I could easily see guys walking away because they could be like, I've seen everything in there. There's nothing in there. You know,
you get skunked 9 out of 10 sits. You're like, there's no deer here.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, wait.
Yeah. It's the long game, right? Aaron and I talk about that a lot. Like, that's why we brought up the trail camera part, Brett. We brought that up about like finding those windows. It doesn't happen overnight. We've done it, played the game way too long to understand that it just
the t-shirt.
The reason I asked that question is only because it seems like nowadays people, they only have access to ability to purchase small chunks of land like that, or they think, well, I'm not going to have any success at all on these 10 acres or less land. So if I don't have a Lee Lakowski or whatever of 100 acres or more, I'm just never going to be quote unquote successful with these giant deer. And I think that narrative going around, I think it's a false narrative out there now. And I think you can, if you put the time in and the correct work on that piece of land, you can do it and have high success with it. It sounds like you guys are doing it on a very high level as well. And one thing that I've really learned though is with my 80 acres, it's really only maybe 35 huntable acres. And there was a couple years where I just didn't see a deer at all. I mean, there's 3 years I went straight of I'm not even seeing a spike. I'm not even seeing any type of bucks. I didn't even see a doe. So eventually I got to the point where it's like there's something out there. And this is when I was fairly new to hunting world and maybe like I was 13, 14 years old. So eventually I came up with this idea was, you know what? As soon as January 1st hits, let's see when the first snow comes. And then after that, I'm going to wait about a week. Then after that happened, I started going out there and I started tracking these deer. And I noticed, ooh, here's a piece of land that I never knew was on this land before. And then I started getting on my close. I had to get on my hands and knees to get through half of these trails that they were walking through.
Mm.
And doing that more and more over the years, I've learned the land more. I've learned where these deer are moving more frequently through. I'm learning the land a lot more. So thus I feel like I'm learning the deer a lot more. And
Mhm.
I can set myself up for success down the road if I do with my huge success that I've had been doing through my winter scouting.
Yeah. Brett, and you don't have to say, is this 80-acre tract the only piece of ground that you hunt or can hunt?
Right now, yes, I have the ability though to be possibly moving into some different land for this upcoming year.
Cool. Yeah. Good. I mean, that's always, when I hear guys, talk about, maybe that they're struggling on a piece of ground where it's like, go find more. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
always thinking that, like, man, like go find more. Like don't spend your money on maybe a swimming pool for the deer and build a scrape and use it for gas money and try to go knock on some doors, man. I
Yeah.
because I was that guy, Brett. I was the guy that hunted one place.
I was too.
And like hearing your story, dude, I can remember those years when hunting season came to an end. I'm like, well, that sucked. That
Yeah.
sucked. I didn't see a single big deer.
And there was a lot of those years.
Oh man, it's like,
Wasn't there?
yeah, but
And
like,
and that goes back to, sorry to interrupt you, DJ, but that goes back to like when I would think I need to do more. I need to put more food plots in. I need to do more of this. I need to put more stands up. No, maybe you just need to relocate of what you're doing. Rethink and just step back maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
You not seeing a deer out there could be literally be how you're entering the farm.
Mhm.
It could be that little. Sorry,
Yeah.
DJ, go ahead.
No, it's one of those things, but we don't learn this kind of shit without like failure, right? When earlier, just a little bit ago, Brett, you said something that about like maybe guys overlook pieces of ground. Dude, hey, I'll put both hands up. That was me. 29-acre track will forever change the way I hunted. I and it sucks because this will never happen, most likely. 99% chance this will never happen. I had a guy that was not begging me, but like, "Hey, DJ, I come out, hunt my land. I see big bucks out back." And this was a dozen years ago. You know what? The only thing that I could ever think about, I was like, "Dude, you got 29 acres. There ain't no deer on there. 29 acres. No, that's way too small." And dude, he stayed on me. He's like, "I'm telling you, you got to come out and try it." Nope, too small. I got bigger land. I got 100 acres over here. I know it. I know. I got my tree stands up. I already know where I need to hunt. Eventually, I took him up on that offer. That 29 acres completely changed my outlook of hunting, and it's still to this day, that piece of ground probably has grown some of the largest deer I've ever found in Michigan. but it opened my eyes up. Well, if that 29 acres could be like that, and I added a second piece to my hunting playbook, then I added that third piece, and then that fourth piece, and then just try to keep growing that playbook. And I only have to listen. I may not even hunt that this next year, but I know I got a spot on that piece of ground that if the time's right and if there's a buck that's calling it home or using it, I know where you could go kill him. And I've went through that process, but I was I was that guy that got so stuck on hunting one piece of ground. And if it wasn't 3 digits, if it wasn't at least like 100 acres in my mind, like when I was a kid, I was like, there ain't no big deer here. There's no way there's a big deer here. It's too small.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
But learning from failure, like the hard way, right? Like, man,
Yeah.
I swear there's times when I think of whitetail hunting, everything I've learned, I think I've had to learn the hard way, like all the mistakes.
You'll never forget them though.
Yep.
They stick with me the most. I mean, heck, there was one point it was 13 years old and I shot it was 12, my very first deer I was shooting at, ended up being a doe. Shot and missed right below its stomach, 20 yards away. Next thing I know, I'm sitting in my stand crying like a little baby, just ah. Next thing I know, I look over, my dad's right across from me, and he's picking up my arrow and coming up, walking up my stand right there, and he's like, "Brett, why are you crying?" Like, I practiced so hard, and I really want, and I'm just a competitive guy at heart, so it just that also fueled the fire. And he goes, "Well, welcome to deer hunting, dude, and welcome to deer hunting with a
Mm.
bow." And in my family, if you hunt with a gun, we just don't do that. It's only with a bow. And
Okay.
it was an eye-opening moment for me because it was like, man, I thought I've been practicing enough and putting in the work, and apparently I wasn't. So next thing I know, more work with the bow, more work. And a week later, I shot my 4-point buck. And it's the mental strength that I think people are losing out now. The reason I say that story is because I think people, they don't want to get into hunting because it can be a mental strain on you and it can really wear on you. And I think this new day and age of, I'm just going to say it, soft people, they don't want to go out into the world of hunting because it's a hard game to do, and it's hard game to just to see a deer. And they think with this new day and age of social media, it's like, oh, look at them posting that deer, look at them getting that deer, and I can't even see a freaking doe. And then it's a mindset that they need to get out of, and to have the mental strength to just keep pushing forward, be positive about what you're own doing, and don't worry about whatever people think. Just focus on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They, they want they want instant results, right?
Yep.
And it goes that's the opposite of
The truth.
us playing the long game, right? Like if you want instant results, you may trip into one time, but to do it repeatedly, especially in the state of Michigan, it's that's a slippery slope.
With you guys being here from Michigan, obviously, what do you think is? I mean, we've seen the numbers decreasing. It seems like every year. I mean, 2020 was an outlier, so we're not going to count that year. I mean, the numbers have steadily declining. What do you think is kind of like the big reason why Michigan isn't back up to where it was back in the Fred Bear days?
As far as hunters, you're saying?
Yeah, just the overall hunting atmosphere. It just seems like it's just every year, it just seems to be plummeting every year more and more. And the hunters, the deer, I mean, obviously, the deer are increasing more, but what do you think might be a cause to that?
I think it's availability to go hunting for a lot of people. That's what I won't lie. Like I've been knocking on doors for a long time. It has gotten tougher and tougher every single year. Every single year it gets worse. You know, now since COVID, no one even wants to answer their door now. Like everyone's scared of you. But I think it's you know, places get developed, people, you know, people lease land up. How many times have we heard of that? You know, a guy's been hunting a piece of ground down for 6 years and someone else comes in and you know, writes the landowner a check, I don't blame the landowner one bit. He's being offered some money, you know, he may benefit his family, that may help his family. So I'm not mad at the landowner for a situation like that. Everyone seems to be, you know, scared of public land, and rightfully so sometimes, right? Like that's a different animal. So for me, I think the availability for people to have places to go hunt, and you know, if they don't have great places to go hunt, like we said, they don't see instant results like they see on TV or their phone, they naturally get turned away. I mean, I hunt places, Brett, that I've watched guys gain permission, and if they don't kill a deer in a year or two, they leave. They're gone. It's too tough. That's what they'll tell you in the parking lot. It's too tough. It's too wet, too swampy, do whatever the case may be. That's what I see.
Yeah, I agree with what DJ said. It's also just, I think, I think it's not being passed down for some reason, and that reason could be a plethora of things. The way our society is, the way our, the way you know the workforce is going. A lot of guys and gals had to probably get out of hunting because they don't have enough time. Um, it's different nowadays. It's different from when we were kids. Like we didn't have. I don't want to blame it on electronics because I played a lot of video games when I was a kid. I did. But it still didn't. It still didn't deter me from going and throwing a baseball with my dad or going out and shooting my bow in the yard. Like it was just something I did. Um, I think the onset of social media, the onset of a lot of different things to be able to grab and do rather than go shoot a bow or rather than go and teach someone a bow or how to shoot a crossbow or a gun or something like that. I think that is a big part of it as well. I think a lot of things are priced as far as getting into it, pricing a lot of people out of it. Um, with, like I said, how, you know, you would think, I think there's a McDonald's in Traverse City, they're getting paid like $21 an hour. It's crazy. Like you should be able to go afford things, but I think it's a culmination of things. I do think when you think of it, like in Michigan, there is so much public land. Like if I didn't have private land and I could not get a yes from a door knock, like there is somewhere where I could go, but like DJ said, is it the experience you want? I don't know. Probably not. I've trampled around on some public land. It is a pain in the ass. Like there are some spots it's tough. But you got to have that mental fortitude of driving through it. And I just think that these kids now, they don't. Like there's not a lot of them that do. Like I coach a 8 and under softball team. If I can get those girls for an hour to not pick dandelions, I'm winning, baby. Like I am winning,
Yeah.
I just think the mindset's a little different. I think it's a culmination of things, but I think that's kind of where I stand on that.
I think the biggest problem that we're facing here in Michigan, it's social media and people just kind of wanting to stay inside nowadays. And I think COVID forcing everyone to stay inside really didn't help that problem. And I think when people want, because we have so much public land to hunt here in Michigan, and they think of, well, I really don't know if I'm really going to want to hunt that public land because I don't know if I'm going to be walking on somebody else. I just want to kind of be me as hunters. We're kind of like, my thought is we're kind of secluded. I don't want to walk anybody else. This is my area. It's like I want to be left alone. And to go out in the public land and my thought was if I'm new to hunting and I only have public land, I would be, do I really want to go out there? I'm kind of scared. And I don't know if I really want to go do that. So you got that mindset into it. And I just think parents need to do a better job of getting their kids outside. I mean, I played the PS1 as a kid, but I was outside playing sports all the time. You couldn't get me to get back inside. I mean, heck, I was grounded to stay inside more than staying. You can't go outside and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But and I think just the picking up a bow, that art form itself is just dying itself in the state of
Mhm.
Michigan, and it's sad to see that more kids would much rather watch TikTok and get a quick satisfaction of a 15, 30-second reel. Oh, that's hilarious. I'm gonna watch my next one. And then they keep getting that false sensation of look at these guys shooting these big deer and they're getting it like right away. When in reality, that's not the truth. They're spending months and all the time and hours into hunting just to get this one deer. And then they
Yeah.
got to do it all again next year. And it doesn't happen overnight. And I think this mindset of it's got to be right now or it's nothing. And I think that's another problem that we're facing here in Michigan, not just in Michigan, but all over the place.
I also I'm gonna add, like, I think in Michigan, and specifically Michigan, I think the knowledge, the knowledge that the state of Michigan, the lack thereof, puts out is a problem. I think there could be more archery in schools. I think it's starting to get bigger. There was nothing when I was in school. Now I think my high school might have an archery team or something like that, but like the outdoor space is kind of intimidating. Like, how many guys, like adults, are okay with walking into a bait shop or a pro shop and asking like what a peep sight is? Like, and you've got 3 other guys on the bench, like, seasoned guys are like, scowling at you. Like, that's why the pro shops are dying too. You can buy that shit on Amazon. You can hit up the Google machine. What's a peep sight? It'll tell you. But like, being less intimidating and more inviting is huge. It's got to be that way. And we got to figure out how to do that. But knowledge is key. Getting it into the schools, I think, is really key. You know, I don't want to talk about guns in schools, but it's, a lot of that's parenting, but we won't get into that tonight. But I think knowledge, the lack thereof, the knowledge of just hunting and how to shoot a bow and, and fishing. Fishing's easy. Like, they have the free fishing weekend and stuff like that in Michigan and all that stuff. Like, just the knowledge, I think, is lacking, and I think they could do a better job doing that as well. I mean, how many podcasts are out there now? Like, wouldn't it be in the DNR's best interest? Now, we could be proactive as podcasters, but wouldn't it be in the DNR's best interest, or to reach out to some of the podcasters or some of the bigger names, like, and hey, can you guys spread the word on this? This is what we want out there. This is, something. It's just starting there. Like, I think there's really good opportunities now to be able to get that word out there. And I just think it hasn't been capitalized on.
I would like to, I'd like to see hunter safety have to be completed in the school.
100%.
I like that idea.
Like a requirement.
Yeah. And, because we talked about earlier that we had to be 12 and 14. And a lot of people, and I agree, looking back, if you don't have, it's really hard to get a kid into hunting at like 14 years old, because they're already distracted by so much in life, right? Especially their social life at 14. Yeah. Or if you had 10-year-olds taking hunter safety, so you're talking what, fifth grade maybe, you take hunter safety, because hunter safety is not easy to go take like it was when we were kids. You have to like do it online, then you have to make appointments. And dude, when I was a kid, they had hunter safety like leading up to deer season, like every weekend at local sporting goods
shops. Yep.
Yeah. where now it's kind of a pain. But also maybe some of these parents aren't wanting to take the time to go take their kid to take hunter safety, or
Mhm.
let's get it done in the school. Everyone can take it. And then that provides one awareness to hunting and fishing, you know. Then they can capitalize on the free fishing weekends, or maybe the youth deer season, or maybe deer season in general. Like, what if someone in their school is speaking to them about hunter safety, that they just don't come from a household that hunts, and they don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
So I don't I've always thought that. I've always thought I would like to see hunter safety put into the school systems.
I love that idea because, like I said, I coach my daughter's softball team, and I'll say at least half of those girls have never picked up a bat or a ball,
Mm,
you know, and they're just learning now, which is great. That is fine. That's what I'm there to do, is help teach and just have fun. And I want these girls to come back out for the team again next year. Like, it's just, why don't we treat it like that? Like, make it inviting, trying to teach a girl how to hold a bat. Let's teach a girl how to shoot a bow,
mhm,
or cast a rod, or bait a hook, or build a fire. Like, think of having a weekend, a Saturday, Sunday class as a fifth grader that is maybe discounted. You get volunteers to come in, you have food, and it's one weekend, and maybe you make it a requirement. Maybe it's incentivized. Maybe you get a tax break, which heaven forbid you get a tax break on things. Maybe they get a discount. The youth get a discount in their licenses. Maybe they get, I don't know, something. Maybe you could figure that out. But I love that idea, DJ. I think it's a great idea. And
mm.
back when we were kids, we had to be in hunter safety before we could even hunt. Now kids, if they're with an adult, they can hunt at 6. I could have took my daughter hunting this year.
Yep.
She is not ready to go hunting.
Yep.
Yep.
And I
That's
think
what I think.
this state, because I love it, grew up here, it used to be in my mind, hearing the stories from my dad and all the older generation, just of how great the state used to be, and to see them talk about how it is now, it just it's a little sad to see just the state used to be so great back then. Now, just, I'm not saying it's not still great, but I'm saying it's just what it was to where it is now. And I think we should do a better job of it, not just as podcasters and social media stuff like that, but I think the state also needs to do a better job in trying to listen to the hunters as well. I mean, it seems like they're asking our surveys on deer hunting of how many fucking acorns you see out there hunting when you harvested your deer, but they don't want to ask in my opinion, the more harder questions of how can we improve the hunting world? How can we improve people, that not even just the kids, but the people that left hunting? How can we get them back into hunting?
Mhm.
And how can we give them more opportunity? And just, I think as a whole, I think there could be a better program that could be put in place. And I really hope to see something like that happen eventually in my lifetime.
Yeah, for sure.
We're kind of, I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time. I really appreciate you guys coming on. With that kind of still being on the topic, is there any laws that you think that you don't agree with here in Michigan that you might want to see changed, or that you like, I really like this law, or anything the hunting world law wise that you might not like or disagree with?
You want me to take it, Aaron, or you want it?
Either one of you go.
I can rip the Band-Aid off. I
Okay.
So behind closed doors, I've been talking to one of the guys that is in this new initiative that got selected for the new initiative. I don't know if you know anything about that, Brett. Um, where they sent out, you know, for the general public, they are taking and they're going to make a couple groups, a UP group and a Lower Peninsula group, and they're going to select a few people for each group, and they're going to be involved with like the NRC and the NRC and the DNR and everything will take like their, you know, what they talk about, like their ideas. So like guys like us, we could have signed up for it. So DJ and I are going to do a podcast with this gentleman, and I've been in conversations with him off the record. And you know, what the state of Michigan, as us hunters, if I sit here and I ask both you, like right now, Brett, what do you think the biggest problem is in Michigan? Like, if you, off the top of your head, as deer hunters, what do you think the biggest problem is? And if you don't know, that's okay, because that's what you would probably say, right? I don't know. I had no idea. Because guess what? They don't tell us. There's no knowledge. So you have 800,000, how many ever there is opinions out there of, oh, baiting's the problem. $1 the problem. APR is the problem. We don't shoot enough does. They shoot does. We don't shoot does. Nobody knows what the problem is. Okay. So I asked him, that's my question. What is the problem? Okay. And we're going to get into this in length on our podcast. But in his scenario, the problem is there is way too many deer. Okay. That's what it boils down to. There's way too many deer in the state of Michigan. And if we don't control it, they're going to bring in sharpshooters. They're going to eradicate it. They're going to do that. And so my thing is, when you look at the not mandatory check-in, you look at the numbers, there is not one county that is more doe harvest than buck harvest in Michigan. It does not happen. Okay. But when you look at it, if you know the quotas per county, we are reaching the quotas per county, but they're still down. Okay. So my whole thing is, the rule that I don't like is, if you want to shoot more does, or if you want to shoot more deer, okay, you have to take away one buck tag, because there's probably, I think it needs to be one buck. Okay. And that's not coming from me wanting to kill bigger deer. That's not what it is. I do want an older age structure in our herd. I do. But when I proposed this to him, he's like, well, there's only about 12% of people that actually fill their buck tag. I call bullshit, because any number you throw at me is fictitious. I know 3 guys this last year that have killed, all of them killed 2 bucks, and they did not record any of their deer. So your 12% is already fucked.
Right.
Okay. So pardon my French. I get a little emotional about this. But still, let's say it is 12%. There is 12% of those bucks that we are saving. And those in the 1 buck thing is not so much of like, oh, you're killing 2 bucks. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. Brett, if a buck walks under you only have 1 buck tag in your hand and it's a 4-point, are you going to shoot that deer? More than likely, probably not. So that deer lives. And if you're a person that's like, I need 3 deer to feed my family this year, because there's a lot of people like that, you're going to go kill the best buck you can find, and then you're going to go kill 2 does instead of killing 2 bucks and possibly a doe. Okay. Or guess what? You can shoot more does than you can bucks. So it's a mindset. It's all about, do I want to burn this tag on an inferior buck or inferior little deer? I'm going to hunt for the best buck I can that has more meat on it, is probably more than likely bigger, gonna let the younger age class grow and live longer. But in turn, if I need more deer, I'm going to kill more does. So I think that is the way I would like to see it going. And the other thing I have is the deer camp I talk about is 220 acres. It has been an APR deer camp. It's not an APR county. It is an APR deer camp since 1999. Our neighbors have the same rules we do and have had the same rules as long as we have. And there's cumulatively almost 400 acres total continuous there that is 4 on a side. That's the rule.
Real quick, can you mention what APR means for anyone that might not know?
Yep, it's an antler point restriction. So, there's antler point restrictions. I think they're still on, right? Up in the northwest, like northwest
Mhm.
counties. There's an antler point restriction that is, I think it might only be 3 on a side you can kill up there. Is that
Yeah,
I think that's
3
what it
as far as
is.
I know.
So, it's however you want to do it. Like if it's state driven, you have to obey by them. But ever since I've been able to hunt, our deer camp and our neighbors have put a point restriction on us. It has to have 4 on one side for us to shoot the deer at our 220 and at their it's just shy of 400 acres all accumulative. So Brett, over the years, so that was 1999. It's been a minute. It's been 20 some years that we've been doing that and practicing that and holding true to that. Okay. Not a lot of deer get shot, hardly any that aren't 4 on a side. Shit, my first buck that I ever shot when I was 12 was a 6-point. It had 4 on one side and 2 on the right. Like I've always shot 4 on a side. So, and it was a 1.5 year old deer, by the way. So my whole thing with the APR is the APR only gives you a permission slip to still shoot 1.5 to 2.5-year-old bucks. Like it doesn't do anything. We get a lot of 1.5, 2.5-year-old bucks that are little basket 8s, So if you want the herd to be the healthiest it can be and thrive the way it's supposed to be, the age structure needs to be higher. And the APR, in my mind, in the 20 some years we've done it, has never gained us ground. We are not seeing 130s on the regular that are 3, 4, 5 years old. We're not. We shot 5 bucks this year. 4 of them were there was 2 that were 1.5. They were 8-pointers. There was 2 that were 2.5 and 1 that was a 3-year-old. That's it. And the neighbors, they shot. I can't remember what they shot, but we obeyed by the APR 4 on the side, but we didn't gain any ground. We didn't gain any ground. We killed the inferior deer that we want to get to the next level, but we didn't get a slap on the wrist because we still obeyed by the rules. I would rather take our camp and say, all right, guys, there's 11 of us, 1 buck. You can kill a spike if you want. Go kill that spike. But when you're done, you are done. And guess what? That gives more room for everybody else to move around too, because it's 11 guys on 220 acres. You get 4 guys that kill bucks up there, they're gone. Everybody gets to move around and the experience is a little better. That would be my long dissertation of what I would change right off the rip.
Well, it was good enough that I'm just going to kind of ride the coattails on what Aaron said. The only thing that I would add that he kind of hit on right there at the end, that it does allow whoever is out there hunting to decide if they do want to shoot that buck. If it is the spike, or if they want to wait for a different one, because that's where I am pro 1 buck, right? But I'm pro letting that hunter, he or she, whatever they may be, decide if it's a buck they would like to take. Brett, I don't want to tell your kid someday when they're on their first hunt, oh, you can't shoot that. It doesn't have enough points. I want them to be able to decide what they want to do. That's how I've let my kids grow up. You get to decide. You get to decide what deer you want to shoot tonight. And if we got 1 buck tag, you get 1 buck tag. If you want to burn it night 1, that's totally your choice. You are the hunter, you are in the driver's seat, you make that decision. That's what I want to make sure people get. They get to make that choice. But I stand behind the 1 buck. It's wild to me that over the last couple of years podcasting with Aaron and now doing the the Method podcast, when I tell people that we are just finally having a deer registration, like you got to register your deer, it blows people's mind. They say, well, what did you do before then? And I reply, Nothing.
They literally look like they look at us like we have 8
Yeah.
arms coming out of our head.
Yeah, they can't believe it. So is it nice that I do like that's nice to see. Like maybe we're headed in the right direction. But then all of a sudden the governor decides that, well, you won't be penalized if you don't register your deer. And then we bring in the, you can take all the percentages you want. And Aaron and I have had these conversations. What's the percentage that isn't registering their kills? And we'll never know, right? But at least we're seeing some numbers now. In what I would love to know through the DNR, the first year were they like, oh shit, or were they like, okay, that's kind of what they thought? Because I think it was more of the oh shit,
Oh
like,
shit.
this may be worse than what we thought.
I hope it
Because-
was oh shit.
Yeah, no
because
kidding.
it's not regulated.
Mm,
It needs to be mandatory, and it needs to be a telecheck. You call it in, and as you're talking to them, they spit a number to you that you have to physically write on your tag that goes on that deer. And now it is checked in. If you do not get that number, Ohio does it, Illinois does it, Kansas does it. If you get caught without that number on your tag, you are SOL. You get the book thrown at you. That's how it has to be. And like you said, Brett, earlier, our society is getting soft. I don't know why. They probably look at, and honestly, Michigan's deer hunting gets ran by Lansing. That's another reason why I hate East Lansing and the Spartans, because it gets ran by that city. I don't want to look at the DNR and point the finger at them because they are just puppets. Lansing tells them what to do, and then they shoot it out to us. It's not the DNR's problem or fault, in my opinion. Not all of it. It gets ran by the liberals down in Lansing. And the thing is, at the end of the day, nothing's going to change unless that city changes. That's what sucks in the reality of it. But if they want to do things the right way and they want to really listen to us, and the thing is, they probably look at our deer herd like there's just way too many of them. Just get rid of them all, when really they could actually look at them as an asset. Like, how many homeless are around Detroit or Grand Rapids or Flint, soup kitchens? Like, why aren't they doing a hush program that Iowa does? Why can't we go out and shoot does as hunters and donate them for free? There's no free donations anywhere in Michigan that I know of. Like, that is a red flag. Why aren't we doing that? But you just rather fatten your pockets in Lansing. Well, it's a problem.
They instead of doing that, they'll just shut down coyote season during fawning season.
That's the only reason why, and they won't tell us that. They shut it down for the 3 months of fawning season so they can control the deer herd. What do you think? We're dumb fucks? Sorry, pardon my French. But
there it is.
I just saw a brand new fawn 3 days ago, fresh out of her mom. Fresh. I mean, could barely walk. And I'm like, easy pickings. And guess what? First cutting's getting to get ready to come off here with farmers. You know how many the combines are going to get? Or the hay bines? Yeah. It sucks, man. I mean, that's something you just can't. I mean, the hay bines, whatever, they get fawns. I get it. But shutting down coyote season and fawning, you got us. Oh, you got it. Yeah, it's just like you want the coyotes to thrive. My ass. Just bring wolves down here then, because they're already here. Why don't you do that?
Can't make this shit up, boys.
They shot that wolf out in Battle Creek area, not knowing thinking it was a coyote. That was a big thing. They wanted that guy's head off.
Yeah,
you guys hear about that?
Charged for it. He's getting charged for it.
He's getting charged for it.
He's getting charged for it. Oh my gosh.
And it's unreal. But it's
I just can't believe that story, and how even the guide was like, yeah, I think that's a wolf. That's just a wolf. That's a coyote. I just think that coyote is just on steroids. Come to find out the freaking wolf. And they're like, oh no, how dare you? We're going to throw everything at you now. It's like, really?
Yeah.
You just don't hear wolves down this part of fucking Michigan. You might hear them maybe in the Traverse City area from them crossing over in the wintertime, but you don't hear that often up there either.
Well, here's the truth. If I'm hunting Brett's 80 acres and here comes this what looks to be a coyote, I think it's a coyote. We're down in southern Michigan. I'm going full draw. And when I start whistling at him to stop, I'm not going to go, is that a small wolf? Nah, like, no, dude, no, that's not how it works. You're shooting it. Like, that's what we do down here to coyotes. You
Yeah.
don't think that it's a wolf, but
It's they're ass backwards down there in Lansing, and
Yep.
it's mind blowing.
yep, for sure.
There's a saying, well, I want to saying, but totality of the circumstances that uses in law enforcement, and the totality of the circumstances here in the southern Michigan, you don't hear wolves down here. So your first mindset is, I'm shooting this giant fucking coyote, and I'm gonna be look at me, and this giant coyote that I killed. Oh fuck, it's a wolf. I'm going to prison for the rest of my life.
But Brett, you want to know the other thing is the people that are voting on wolf season up in the UP are people that don't deal with wolves.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Why is inner city Detroit have on their ballot or whatever the wolf season up in the UP? It doesn't concern them.
No.
It doesn't
They
even
don't like it,
concern you and I and DJ.
No. This state you just get speechless sometimes of like ass hat backwards, like really. And this state, I think if they're not going to listen to Ted Nugent when it comes on the baiting part of it all, of them sharing spit all the time, if they're not listening to Ted Nugent, they're never going to fucking listen to what we have to say or our opinions, really. They just care about how they're going to make their wallets fatter and make it so it's better for themselves and not anybody else.
Well, why do you think Sweaty Teddy left Michigan?
Mhm.
Yeah.
He knew. He saw it coming.
Yep.
He ain't no dummy.
It's sad to see. And
It is. It really is, because I love this state. I love the hunting in this state. I really do. It could be better. Yeah, I get that, but it's not bad. Like, it's
No.
not. It could be way better though. With just a little bit of effort. It
Yeah, it's
doesn't even not
take
even that much.
it's not going to take that fucking hard work. It's just give us like a little bit. Just give us what we're trying to tell you as a community of whole as hunters in Michigan. We'll give you 20 million examples, but just take one and we'll all be happy with it.
Well, and I think the other thing you're going to find out too, with the $1 and the APR, they have data on the APR. They don't have data on the $1. But my whole argument to that is, let's try it. You gave the APR 4 or 5 years to try it. You didn't have data on them before, did you? I don't know. I don't think they have. Let's try it. Give it 3 or 4 years. I'll bet you're going to start seeing a swing in numbers. I'll bet you the people that need 6 deer for their family to live, they're going to be killing another doe or 2 does or whatever. And I think you're going to start seeing the imbalance or the balance come back to equal. If not, the does take over. You're going to see a healthier herd. People are going to be more happy with their experience because they're going to be seeing bigger deer.
Yep.
And then you're thus going to get more people out there like, ooh, I can get more
Bingo.
bigger deer. Heck yeah.
Or
Now
you're going to
more
get
people out there.
Or you're going to get Uncle Bill that hasn't bow hunted in 15 years back in bow hunting because there wasn't deer around. There wasn't big enough deer that I wanted to chase. Well, he starts seeing the trail cam pictures or something his nephew or his son shot, and it's like, oh shit, these are out here? Okay, let's get back into it. And then Uncle Bill gets his grandson in it, and then we're getting more hunters back in.
It's a trickle effect, and they don't care. And one thing that I would like to see, and I know a lot of people in Michigan are probably going to like, how fucking dare you say this? Take the gun season off November 15th and push it towards the later part of the year. Now, I know that's saying a lot. History of November 15th, people get the day off, people don't go to school, this and that. But when I tell my wife I have October 1st through November 14th to hunt, And outside of that, because I'm a guest on the property, so I don't feel like I should be out there. It's their land, so I'm just going to back off, let them have their time. So when I tell her that, she's like, "Well, that's just kind of weird." And so you get the rut, and it's like this prime time of hunting in a sense, and you can't hunt it really. Nope, can't hunt it at all. So it's really not fair. It's fair to the archers because we don't get that much opportunity, which you still do, but depending on where you're at, though. And shooting with a bow, it just makes it 10 times more challenging. So I would love to see that maybe push back later in the year, or at least adjusted it in some way. Because I know I was talking to a guy out in Iowa, I believe it was Iowa. Their gun season doesn't start till December.
Yep.
I was like, that's a freaking awesome idea. I mean, what's it going to hurt to try different things to improve the hunting thing here? And it seems like they're set on their ways and they don't want to change anything.
Yep, that's pretty much it, though. That's where we're stuck, is that they're stuck in their ways. That's why this whole what is it, initiative or whatever Aaron was talking about, that's going to be really interesting what comes out of that.
Yeah. Well, guys, like I said, I wrapping up for the night, I do like to ask, though, was there a story you didn't get to share tonight, or a topic we didn't get to cover tonight before we let you guys go that you're like, you know what, I really wanted to share the story or this topic we wanted to cover? Is there anything like that, or are you guys all set? You guys?
Man, I not for me, man. I think it was a great conversation. I mean, we hit some rabbit holes. That's what Aaron and I seem to be good at. But that's what's fun about podcasts.
Yeah, I agree. I really don't have any or anything I really want to talk about, other than I just want to, tell you good luck on your 80 acres. I hope you can be successful on that this year. I think that'd be really cool for you to, send us a group chat or something like that, and you killed a slammer on that, doing, maybe over a scrape or something like that, or something that, maybe you heard or learned or something like that. Or I just, I think you got a pretty good little spot there with handled, maybe with a couple tweaks. I'd like to see you kill something on there, man. So good luck to you this fall.
Thanks, brother. And guys, I'm definitely going to take you up on that. I'm going to try the mock scrape this year for the first time, and I'm really going to, if I get a nice photo of a deer on that, I'm going to send it to you guys. And if I get that deer on camera and I put him on the ground, I'm sending that photo straight to you guys the first thing I do.
We'll drive down with the beer. We'll do that. Okay. We'll grab a case of beer. We'll drive down and meet you, take some pictures, and we'll maybe even play a game of euchre or something like that.
I finally know how to play, so I can play now.
We play high stakes, all right? So big money.
Oh, man.
I'd tell you what, Brett, like Aaron said, thanks for having us on, man. We wish you the best this fall. But I will say, if you have a big deer in your area this summer, Brett, and if you properly build that scrape in the right area, I'm telling you right now, you will get a picture of him. It will happen.
Yep.
I'm probably going to be texting you guys throughout the season, like, hey, am I doing this correctly here and there? So don't get annoyed if I'm texting, hey, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right?
Yep. Well, and honestly, Aaron and I do our best work if we can have the property for a few years, and we can kind of tell
you just give us the keys. We'll kind of lay the groundwork, and then we'll let you come in about 2-3 years.
I like that idea.
Just playing the long game, Brett. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, just the long game. We're just bullshitting you, buddy.
Yeah. But seriously, if you want, I mean, I like the area you're in. So,
well, good luck this fall, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, fellas. Have a good rest of your night. I'll be in touch with you guys later. Thanks, guys. I really again appreciate it. Oh, man. 2 guys, like I said, I was excited to get them on the show. Was really trying to get them mainly for the Michigan week, but our guest that we had lined up for today in Maine didn't pan out. They had an opening, so it's like, it's a recipe for perfect timing, and it was awesome to get them on. Those 2 are very knowledgeable of how they manage their deer, just deer hunting in general. Those two are just very knowledgeable. So I was very excited to get them on there. I was like a schoolgirl and cheerleading. I was like, yeah, I got them on the show. So I was excited. I hope everyone out there is excited. Drew, if you are still watching, I think I popped yours up there. I'm sorry we missed it during that conversation, but Drew made a comment on here when we were talking about law changes. He stated, I think what would go a long way is changing the deer hunting seasons into zones similar to waterfowl seasons. We could easily move rifle season back a little bit in the LP. Fucking great idea, Drew. I mean, I ever since I found out that was the main thing kind of out in Iowa, I was like, I think we could do that as well. And like I said, I think the state needs to be willing to change some of the ways they're thinking, and they're not willing to do it. And he also stated, but the UP could be covered with the snow come early December. Yeah, but that's a good time though to be out there, to get them on their feet and moving around. So them being on the snow is kind of a great part in the gun season as well in the UP. Well, everyone, I hope that everyone enjoyed tonight's show. I know I just kind of sat back and like listened to these two. Just the knowledge they have is amazing. Please, everyone, if you can, share the show. Put your quarter in the slot machine. Hunting it's a lost sport. It's a lost artwork. We're trying to do our best on our end to share it, get hunting back out what it was. Michigan is a special place to me, and hunting is just an awesome thing. But with that being said, we're going to end tonight's show. We went very long, but thank you, everyone, for supporting the show, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Whitetail Advantage podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.